is a 2010 graduate from UW, where she received her Master of Social Work degree. Since then, Carol received her clinical social work license from the state of Wyoming and is employed at the Sheridan VA. Carol works with veterans in the community through the VA's home-based primary care program and is also the coordinator for the medical foster home program, connecting and supporting veterans with caregivers in Sheridan and the surrounding communities. In her free time, Carol enjoys outdoor activities, traveling, and spending time with her family. And her co-presenter is Billy Chapman, who completed her master's degree in social work from UW as well in 2008 and obtained her clinical social work license from the state of Wyoming in 2010. She has worked at the Sheridan VA Medical Center since 2008 and currently serves as the social worker for the Sheridan VA nursing home programs. She volunteers with Dementia Friendly Wyoming, yay Billy, and is an active member of the Sheridan JCs. She enjoys reading, cheering on the Wyoming Cowboys, and spending time with her husband and their 4 ferrets and their border collie. Please welcome Carol and Billy.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay? All right. I have a tendency to talk kind of softly, so if I start talking quiet or holding the mic down here, yell at me, okay? First of all, I just want to start by thanking all of you for the job that you do as caregivers. I know that it often goes unrecognized and unrewarded, and I know that's not why you do it, and that makes your efforts all that much more commendable and admirable. So thank you for what you do. Carol and I are here today to talk with you about advanced directives and powers of attorney, what they are, why they're important, and how to complete them. We are gonna work on getting through our slides fairly quickly, and then we'll have time at the end for questions, because we recognize that this can be an item where lots of discussion can come up, and there are questions about some of the intricacies of completing these. I'm also gonna say we're not lawyers and we're not here to give you legal advice today. Okay, so advanced directives are a legal document that is made up of 2 parts. One part is appointing someone to be your durable power of attorney for healthcare, or also known as healthcare agent. That's someone who can make healthcare decisions for you if you are unable to make them for yourselves. Or being it that many of you are caregivers, you might be the agent, the healthcare agent, or the power of attorney for healthcare. You might be the person designated to make those decisions. The second part is a living will. A living will is a portion that allows someone to indicate their specific wishes about their medical treatments, in particular what are called life-sustaining treatments. Life-sustaining treatments are non-natural medical things that keep you alive, such as mechanical ventilation, CPR, or cardiopulmonary resuscitation, feeding tubes or artificial nutrition and artificial hydration, and kidney dialysis. Why do we need advanced directives? So advanced directives allow you, again, like I said, to indicate your wishes about various kinds of treatment, particularly those life-sustaining treatments. Without an advanced directive on file, your medical doctors will take all measures necessary to prolong life. So you're gonna get CPR, you're gonna get put on a ventilator, or your loved one may, if you don't have advanced directives or a POLST form, and we'll get to POLST. If you don't have those on file, then all measures necessary will be taken. The role of the decision maker could fall to someone if you don't have someone appointed as your durable power of attorney for healthcare. The role of healthcare decision maker could fall to someone that you normally wouldn't choose to be making those decisions. Different states have different laws, Different organizations follow different hierarchies of who gets to be that decision maker. So in a family with 4 children, it's going to go, if there's not a living spouse, it usually will go to the oldest child. Is your oldest child the person that you want making those decisions for you? Is your spouse the person you would want making those decisions for you? So those are reasons that it's good to have an advance directive on file. In addition to preventing life from being prolonged when you wouldn't want it prolonged, you can also specify in an advance directive that you do want life-sustaining treatments. It's not just for specifying that you don't want them. You can also specify that you do want them. So having an advance directive can save your life too. And then your family, your loved ones, and your medical team know that they are following your wishes if they go ahead with those life-sustaining treatments. It allows your voice to be heard at a time when you may not be able to speak for yourself. So where do we complete an advance directive? How many veterans do we have in the audience? No veterans today? Or just not wanting to? Oh, there we go, okay. Thank you for your service, first of all. And if you are a VA patient, you can ask your VA social worker or your VA primary care team about completing an advance directive. The VA has standards that they strive to achieve for having advance directives on file for all veterans who are interested in completing one. And they have a specific form that is specific to the VA that they use. Outside of the VA, you can talk with your medical provider, or there are some organizations such as Wyoming Medical Center in Casper that have the resources available on their websites. I got on the Sheridan Memorial Hospital website just to look around and see, and they do have a section on advance directives, but it says to talk to a case manager. So the social work case management team up at Sheridan Memorial Hospital is a good go-to if you receive your care through Bighorn Health Network and want to complete an advance directive. Anyone can consult with an estate attorney to complete an advance directive, power of attorney, living will. There are fees associated with this usually, so keep that in mind, but an estate attorney is another resource for where you can go to complete an advance directive document. So advance directives first is POST. I had mentioned POST earlier. POST stands for Provider Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment in Wyoming. In other states, it stands for Physician Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. There are some states that call it other things. In Wyoming, it's Provider Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. They are recommended most significantly if you have been diagnosed, you or your loved one has been diagnosed with a life-limiting illness, meaning that you have an illness that is likely to contribute to death, usually within a year, okay? That doesn't mean that you can't complete a POST form otherwise. You still can. It's just important that you update it regularly. Your advance directive forms and your POST form need to reflect one another, and they need to be updated at the same time. If you update one of them, make sure that you update the other one so that they are providing consistent information. So some of the things that they have in common, they are both legal documents. They both serve to specify your wishes. An advance directive has to be signed by you. It cannot go into effect until it is signed by the person who is called the principal. That means the person that the form is relevant to. So that form, okay, I'm having a hard time with my words here, I apologize. So if you are the principal on the form, it means that it is your care that that form is in regard to, okay? A POST form, on the other hand, can be signed by a legal representative of yours. So a POST form can be signed by a spouse, a child, It might fall to that hierarchy like I mentioned before. It can also be signed by you, but it doesn't have to be, whereas the advance directive has to be signed by you. Okay. And then one of the very significant differences between PULSE and advance directives is that those provider orders are physician orders. It's like a doctor prescribing and putting in an order for a medication for you. The pharmacy has to fulfill those orders. A doctor can put in orders that your vital signs be taken daily, and the nursing staff have to follow those orders. PULSE is the same kind of thing. It is orders from your provider. So any medical providers are obligated legally to follow that PULSE form. An advance directive is not physician orders. That's why it's good to have both on file, because of some of these differences between the two. Ethically, your medical team is highly likely to follow an advance directive. However, a PULSE form, they have to follow. We're switching gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about general powers of attorney, or power of attorney for financial, business, or legal purposes. Okay, so it's a document that authorizes someone to manage an individual's business, financial, and or legal affairs. They can buy and sell property for you. They can take money out of your bank account. They can pay bills for you. They can open or close a business for you. We recommend having general powers of attorney on file because without one, if something happens to someone, if they die or they become incapacitated, there are very expensive, very lengthy court proceedings that family members have to go through to legally be able to manage the affairs that we mentioned. When someone doesn't own a home, have very little or no money to their name, it's not as much of an issue. But if someone owns a home, owns property, owns a business, has court proceedings that are unresolved or any unresolved legal matters, having a general power of attorney on file, and again, you want it to be durable, and we'll talk about the durable piece in a few slides, but you want that on file so that you can avoid, your family members and loved ones can avoid the cost and the time that it takes to go through those court proceedings to be able to address those issues. Okay? It also allows ease of access for taking care of financial matters, paying your bills, making sure that the water stays on, the heat stays on, those kinds of things, if you become incapacitated. And incapacitated is unable to make decisions for yourself. Okay. So where do we complete one? The best way to ensure that a power of attorney covers everything that it should cover, and it's thorough, ethical, and legal, is to consult with an estate attorney and complete one. If you are well versed in powers of attorney, if you have some professional experience or some legal experience, there are forms online relevant to different states, and you can use those. However, I know if there was an estate lawyer in the room, they would probably stand up and yell at me for even mentioning that to you. It really is best if you consult with an estate attorney to complete a general power of attorney. Okay, so just some important tidbits. I mentioned laws for advance directives, powers of attorney, and PULSE forms vary by state, so make sure that you are completing one that is consistent with the state where you live and or receive your medical care. If you live in southern Montana, but you receive your medical care in Wyoming, you may want to make sure that you have forms that are relevant for both states. If you travel regularly, if you go to Arizona for the winter months, or if you spend part of your summer in Alaska, Make sure that the forms that you have are relevant to the laws in the states where you will travel to. Unless the power of attorney is durable, there's that durable piece, then it will not remain in effect when the principal individual becomes incapacitated or no longer able to make decisions for themselves. So make sure that you complete a durable power of attorney for health care. General powers of attorney are a little bit different story. Sometimes it may be that you're traveling and you want someone, or your loved one is out of state and wants you to be able to take care of business for them back at home. A non-durable power of attorney would be okay in that situation because they still have capacity, they're still able to make decisions for themselves. However, when they become unable to make decisions for themselves, that durable piece has to be there, or the general power of attorney is no longer legal. For all of these forms, for advanced directives, for a durable power of attorney for healthcare, a living will, or a general power of attorney, the most recent one is the one that is valid and legal. That's important to know. Make sure that you are keeping track of when your loved one has filed one, either with an attorney. Sometimes they go to an attorney and complete the form, and then they come into the VA for their next follow-up appointment, and they complete a new one with the VA, not remembering that they've completed one with a lawyer, or not understanding that the more recent one then discounts the previous one. So make sure that you have the most recent one on file and that the most recent one reflects your wishes. Any questions? Or Carol, I'll give you a chance. Do you have anything you want to add?
Not really right now, but I'll help with the questions if anyone has anything.
Yes.
What do you have to have? What's required? What is required to prove that you are the power of attorney?
You have to have a document that is signed by the person that you are the power of attorney for. And in Wyoming, that document has to have 2 witnesses or be notarized, and you have to have that document to be able to show proof.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're married, you have power of attorney for your spouse?
Not automatically, no. No, usually if you are married for the medical purposes, if there's not a power of attorney on file, usually, and it's called surrogacy, your decision maker is your surrogate, that falls to your spouse first if you're married. But there are some complex situations where that may not necessarily be the case, so it's always best to have it on file. For a general power of attorney, your spouse would have to go through probate court in the case of a death. In the case of incapacitation, there would still have to be legal proceedings to designate your spouse as your power of attorney. Okay?
Once we have a power of attorney made by a lawyer, is that good until it's canceled by another one, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay.
Are the power of attorneys only valid when the people are living?
No. So, and that's a question where there are several layers to how that works. There has to be a specific designation to allow it to still be in effect when someone dies, and that's where wills and trusts come into play, and I'm not even going to begin to get into that information because those are areas that are really for lawyers to cover. Stella?
I just want to address a little bit here. We have a couple of attorneys. Once a year we have at the high school, John Aris and Tim Tarver, and they provide that information. It's a whole day, and so you can ask lots of questions without having to pay for an hour's worth of attorney. Also at the hub, the senior center, we will have them usually 1 to 2 times a year. So look for those and attend them, and you can have a lot of questions answered.
Definitely. That's great to know. Thank you, Stella. Did everybody catch that? Okay.
I do want to say something. Just one more thing about when you replace your advanced directive, please make certain that you follow up and that your previous advanced directive has been rescinded. Sometimes you could end up with a couple of advanced directives, and if one did not get rescinded and you have some pretty significant changes, somebody goes into a chart and finds an advanced directive that didn't get rescinded, it could end up being the old one without that person realizing that you have a new one. So just make sure that a month or so, or even sooner than that, that your old one does get rescinded so that it's not in your chart any longer at the doctor's or wherever you might have your paperwork such as that.
So the VA has a advanced directive for power living will. Is that specific for the VA, or would another advanced directive or living will also apply? You don't have one?
If you have an advanced directive in the VA, the only, or say that you have one out of the VA, but then you also have one in the VA, you could stand the chance of the one outside of the VA not even showing up in the records. So it's really important to get the one you want in both records, wherever.
And the VA form that we have is legal in the state of Wyoming. It does meet the state of Wyoming's criteria and requirements. So you can file the VA advanced directive with a non-VA provider as well. And the VA will accept your non-VA power of attorney. If you have a non-VA one, you can bring that in and the VA will accept that. And yes, your VA power of attorney does have to be notarized. The VA doesn't require it to be notarized. The state of Wyoming does, but there's a page in there for a notary to sign. Is that it? Okay, it's a heavy subject. I feel like we need Lynn up here to ha ha ha, he he he, ho 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 with us. And we will be around for the rest of the day, so if you catch us on a break or afterwards, if you think of questions coming up, just grab one of us and we can provide what information we have. Okay, thank you all.